Hulu buried a Succession spinoff that would have changed everything, and the reason they killed it is something they never wanted you to know. In late 2023, while the finale was still airing, Hulu quietly closed a deal for a Waystar Royco spinoff built around Tom Wambsgans and Greg Hirsch running ATN from the inside. It wasn't a rumor. It was signed. And then it disappeared. The official line was always creative differences. That's the excuse studios use when they don't want you asking who actually pulled the plug. But the real reason this spinoff died has nothing to do with creativity. It has to do with one man protecting his legacy, and a media conglomerate deciding a hit show wasn't worth the headache it came with. Here's how it started. Succession ended in May 2023 as the most talked about drama on television, and every streamer wanted a piece of what came next. Jesse Armstrong, the showrunner, had already floated the idea in interviews almost as a joke that Tom Wambsgans inheriting ATN was a show in itself. Matthew Macfadyen and Nicholas Braun, whose Tom and Greg double act had become the internet's favorite comic relief, were reportedly asked directly by HBO executives whether they'd return for something smaller, sharper, more satirical. Both said yes. Quietly, the wheels started turning. This wasn't fan casting. This was a real conversation happening inside two of the most powerful media companies in the world. By September 2023, the project had a name inside the building, The 100, a reference to ATN's newsroom floor, and a one-season order on the table. Hulu, hungry to plant a flag in prestige drama the way it had with The Bear, put forward a reported $55 million commitment for 8 episodes, with Macfadyen and Braun both attached and a first draft outline already circulating among executives. Lucy Prebble, one of Succession's own writers, was approached to lead the room. Sources close to the negotiation say contracts were drafted for both lead actors by November. This wasn't a pitch meeting. This was a show that existed on paper, with a budget, a writer, and 2 stars ready to sign. But almost immediately, the ground underneath it started shifting. Warner Bros. Discovery, which owned the underlying IP through HBO, had final say over any spin-off, and executives there were split. Some saw dollar signs. Others saw a problem. A spin-off airing on a rival platform, expanding a universe HBO no longer controlled creatively, built around characters whose entire arc had just ended on their terms. The tension wasn't about quality. It was about who got to own what happened next. And this is the part they really buried. It wasn't a failed pitch. It wasn't bad numbers. Jesse Armstrong himself, according to 2 people close to the negotiations, quietly told HBO leadership he didn't want his ending, reopened, for a joke stretched into a season. And more importantly, he didn't want it happening on a platform he had no creative stake in. That single objection gave Warner Bros. Discovery the cover it needed. Rather than risk friction with the writer whose finale had just been called one of the best in television history, WBD let the option lapse in January 2024 without ever formally rejecting it, a slow bleed instead of a decision, so nobody at Hulu could point to a single person who killed it. No press release. No statement. The deal simply stopped being real. Remember that signed commitment, the $55 million, the contracts on the table. That's exactly where it died, not in a boardroom fight over money, but in one phone call protecting one man's legacy. The show wasn't killed by failure. It was killed by success. Armstrong's ending had landed so perfectly that nobody with power was willing to risk touching it, even for a hit. Think about what that cost us. A Tom and Greg ATN series wouldn't have just been fan service. It would have been the first real satire of a right-wing media machine written by the same people who nailed it the first time, arriving in the exact election cycle that needed it most. Macfadyen and Braun move on. Prebble's outline sits in a drawer, and an entire comic timeline of American media, told from inside the newsroom that broke it, never gets made. So ask yourself, if the writer's own instinct to protect his ending is enough to bury a signed, funded cast spin-off of one of the biggest shows of the decade, what does that tell you about every other creative differences, excuse you've ever been given. And what did Netflix bury the same year, for reasons they're still not telling you?